Ohio State spring game. Then we'll get to Nico talk after this. Ohio State spring game. Ryan Day and the Buckeyes, they tackled Zach. That was an improvement for them.
Yeah.
They did not tackle the past few years. The ones did not tackle. The ones didn't really hardly play at all. I mean, you saw a little bit of the wide receivers and the offensive line, which the offensive line looked good. The ones did. I think it was a little concerning with the defensive line with how they looked, especially against the twos for Ohio State. I think if Ohio State has a weakness this season, I mean, obviously they have a weakness, but probably their biggest weakness this season will be the interior of that defensive line. They're going to be starting a true sophomore who, last I checked, they had him listed at 270, which on the interior you can get away with 270, but you get the right guys in there. It's not really big enough, in my opinion. Maybe he grows, maybe he gets bigger, and they keep working him out. But Edric Houston, he's going to be good in there. We'll see what he does. And then the running backs for Ohio State didn't really see much from them, but there was a freshman, Bo Jackson, that really stood out. So,
Mm.
Zach, what were some of your takeaways from the Ohio State spring game?
I've been saying it. I know that there's a quarterback competition. Julian Sayin's QB1. He's QB1. And I thought Lincoln played well. Sayin's QB1.
Yeah, he is. And I don't, like I said in my article after the fact, like this feels different than when Kyle McCord was named the starter because I think then it was neither one was taking the job,
Yeah.
and that was the
Yeah.
problem. I think this one, it seems like based off what I saw from the spring game, the spring game could have been a total anomaly, but based off what I saw from the spring game, it felt like both guys played well enough to get the job. Lincoln
Yeah.
Keenholz had too many issues with accuracy. He also had 2 delay of games, which I'm not sure if they put that on him or the coaches or what goes on there. But Lincoln Keenholz probably had too many errors in his game. But overall, Julian Sayin, I mean, he looked
Yeah.
really good. We'll see what happens when he gets live bullets flying at him and not, just, one hand touch pass rush. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it's what I felt this entire time is that Lincoln was always going to have the leg up in terms of a quote unquote competition because he knows the offense better. He knows those guys better. So every advantage that you can have outside of talent and athleticism, Lincoln has. And he's probably a little bit more athletic than Julian too. Like he's more of a dual threat guy. He's got more mobility. I shouldn't say dual threat. He's got more mobility. And so because of the experience, you are going to see him be more advanced early on. But I think what we've been saying, even though, and I think what I've maintained, even when people were saying, well, maybe it's Lincoln, maybe he could win the job. Julian at some point was going to take over because of his talent. Like he is just a better thrower of the football. And once he figures everything out, which I think you were starting to see, it looks so much better. So that's my first takeaway. Second takeaway, Mylan Graham's going to push Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis. That dude's for real, like Garrett Wilson clone. And I do not say that lightly, but you see him moving, you see him route running, you see the way he plays with a chip on his shoulder. The number 5 doesn't hurt either. But that dude, like, I mean this, and I love Carnell Tate. Like, Carnell Tate might be a first-round receiver. Mylan Graham's going to push him.
Mylan Graham could get that slot position. My biggest thing with him, and Ryan Day talked about it at the press conference afterward, he needs to catch the ball and bring it in. There were too many times when the ball hit his hands and he bobbled it.
Yeah.
Like that's a sign of somebody who's thinking more about after the catch than he is about actually bringing the ball in and catching it. He's going to get himself in trouble with that at some
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, like I see some people in the chat asking, like did the QBs actually look good or did they just call stuff to make them look good? And like there is totally that possibility in the spring game. I would say though, I'm not saying Julian Sayin is like Heisman contender. I'm just saying Julian Sayin versus Lincoln Keenholz because it looked like they were getting the same calls overall. For all we know, Julian Sayin can come into the season and struggle and have a really tough year. But I feel more confident with him being the guy over Lakin Keenholz just by going those two guys,
Yep.
next to each other, watching them on the screen.
Yep.
And I think you're totally right about Mylan Grand. He's going to push for snaps this year, as long as he can correct some of those issues there. But I mean, don't be surprised if Ohio State is looking for interior defensive linemen in the portal. That
Yep.
was my second takeaway. There was a lot to praise from Ohio State in this one. Like I said, Bo Jackson, you mentioned Mylan Grand. There was a lot to praise, but as somebody who runs a Big Ten channel, my job is not to, praise one team the entire time. It's also look for deficiencies, and Ohio State has a major deficiency
Yeah.
in the interior depth of their defensive line. You lose Caden McDonald and Edric Houston. Team runs tempo against you. If a team runs tempo, they're going to be able to run the ball up the gut
Yep.
all day long. It was concerning how much push the second string offensive line was getting on the second string defensive line. Like,
Yep. Yep.
you should not be getting that much push on anybody. And it was some of the edges too. The edges eventually started getting pressure in the second half of the game, but it was concerning, So for Ohio State, who had such a good defensive line last year, especially in the playoffs, I don't think Ohio State's going to see that same type of defensive line play this year, unless they go to the portal and they just absolutely kill it with getting some dudes. And I wouldn't say Ryan Day was tampering, but he definitely was putting out the interior defensive lineman bat signal
Yeah.
in the press conference. He was like,
Uh,
"Yeah, we'll definitely be looking. If anybody wants to enter, we'll be looking." It's like, call us, please.
yeah. Yeah. Do you want to possibly win a national championship?
Come on down.
Come on down. You're the next contestant on the Buckeyes. Price is Right.
No, but probably the most striking thing was you saw the spring game last year with Ohio State. It looked, I mean, with how much talent they had and everything, it looked like a pro team, to some extent last year.
Yeah.
It was a reminder to Ohio State fans how much talent they lost.
Yes.
You and I were telling people they were crazy, saying the defense is going to be better this year than they were last year. We were telling people they were crazy for that, but people kept saying it, and I get it. Things get hyped up. Maybe Matt Patricia pulls something out of his bag and just does something incredible. It could happen, I suppose. But this team, like the defense, obviously very talented. But these guys, I mean, they don't have the experience of the other dudes, and I think the wide receivers kind of showed that a little bit to the secondary in this one.
It's a reminder, JR, and we've said this a lot. I think sometimes people just look at athletes and you're like, and I think this statement is true. I think Ohio State's defense might be more athletic this year.
Possibly.
But you cannot replace knowledge of a system, years of experience. I mean, JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer played 4 years together.
Right.
And Lathan Ransom was a 3-year starting safety. Is I think his 5th or 6th year. Right. You had linebackers who were and Cody Simon was there for 5 years. Like, I think Arvell Reese is going to be awesome. Like, Arvell Reese is, I think, one of the best linebacker prospects we've had. Him and Sonny Styles are two of the best prospects we've had at linebacker in years. But Cody Simon is an incredibly intelligent player, and he knew that system inside and out. So we just have to remember that sometimes the reason why people play fast isn't because they're athletic. It's because they know the defense and they are smart. And that takes that's going to be the issue for a lot of these new players. Like, I think everybody's excited about Jermaine Matthews at corner, but as much as we roasted Burke at times, like, Burke was a 4-year player.
Yeah. You're right.